Good afternoon, my name is Baby J. Degit. I am the leader of group number 3 and we will be discuss about the 1973 Constitution of the Republic of the Philippines. Before we go deeper about the 1973 Constitution, let us discuss what is a constitution. Here in Philippines, we have a total number of 6 constitutions, but on this video, we will be focusing on the 1973 Constitution. A constitution is a set of rules that guides a country, a state, or political organization works. Question is, how 1973 Constitution started? So let me introduce you to the martial law. How this martial law related to the 1973 Constitution? Martial law of 1972 September 21, it was imposed to suppress the increasing civil strife and threat of communists taking over following series of bombings in Manila. But this is not the very first time that the Philippines will put under the martial law. It was way back in 1944 when the second president of the Republic of the Philippines, President Jose P. Laurel, did first. When we say martial law, it is a temporary imposition of military control and suspension of civil law by the government, which is the 1973 Philippine Constitution. Through a presidential decree, President Marcos signed a proclamation number 1081, series of 1973, declaring martial law.
Ferdinand Emmanuel Edralin Marcos Sr., born on September 11, 1917, at Sarat, Ilocos Norte. On December 1938, Ferdinand was prosecuted for the murder of Julio Nalundasan. Graduated on cum laude from UP College of Law. He top-notched the 1939 bar examination for lawyers with a rating of 92.35%. Member of the Philippine House of Representatives 1949 to 1959 and Philippine Senate 1959 to 1965. Became a Senate President from 1963 to 1965. Possessed a phenomenal memory. He was married to Imelda Romualdez Marcos on May 1, 1954, and the marriage produced 3 children. Maria Imelda Amy Marcos, born November 12, 1955, Governor of Ilocos Norte. Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr., born September 30, 1957, Senator of the Philippines. Irene Marcos, born September 16, 1960. Marcos won the presidency on December 30, 1965 and stayed until February 25, 1986, the longest in history. He fourth president who declared martial law. Died September 28, 1989 at age 72, Honolulu, Hawaii, United States, due to lupus.
Hi, good day everyone. I'm Stella Marisa Miles. Today, I will talk about the form of government, unitary dominant party PSUDO, Parliament of Ferdinand Marcos, Legislative Assembly granted to the National Legislature. This constitution also provides for the establishment of the Civil Commission of the Election Commission and the Audit Commission. In 1976, amendment in the continuation of martial law and replacement of the provisional national legislature for a regular national legislature, dated January 17, 1973, February 22, 1986, in 1981. Parliament Amendments, 1984 Amendment, creation of the office of the Vice President and abolition of Executive Committee. And during the transition to a new constitution, it must be guaranteed that the government will respect fundamental human rights and fundamental freedoms. And next is promulgating body. Promulgating body. In the Constitution proposed by 1971, the Constitutional Constitution is subject to the ratification of the Filipino. Citizens' assemblies are created in villages, in municipalities, and in districts, wards, in chartered cities in December 31, 1972. Consisting of all persons who have been residents of the village, district or ward for at least 6 months, 15 years of age or older. Citizens of the Philippines and who are registered on the list of the members of the Citizens Assembly kept by the Barrio District of Ward Secretary. Were areas 14,970,561 members of all the barangays voted for the adoption of the proposed constitution as against 743,869 who voted for its rejection. While on the question as to whether or not the people would still like a plebiscite to be called to ratify the new constitution, 14,298,814 answered that there was no need for a plebiscite and that the vote of the barangays should be considered as a vote in a plebiscite. Whereas, as the result of the referendum showed that more than 95% of the members of the barangays were in favor of the new constitution, the Katipunan ng mga barangay strongly recommended that there should be a new constitution, presumably adopted by the Filipino people. Now, therefore, Ferdinand E. Marcos is the President of the Philippines. By virtue of the powers vested in me, conferred by the Constitution, hereby ratifies and declares that the Constitution proposed by 1971 was verified by a majority of all the votes voted by the members of all barangays. It is the People's Assembly throughout the Philippines and thus took effect. Before President Marcos declared martial law, a constitution was already in the process of discussing the amendment or revision of the 1935 Constitution. They finished their work and submitted it to President Marcos on December 1, 1972. It was submitted by President Marcos for ratification in early January of 1973. And seeing that a direct ratification of the Constitution had failed, Marcos issued Presidential Decree Number 86 in 1972, creates assemblies of citizens to adopt the new draft Constitution by a viva vote in exchange for secret ballots. Marcos declared it validated in full force and effect on January 17, 1973. Although the 1973 Constitution was validated in this manner, opposition continued against it, and Chief Justice Roberto V. Concepcion, in this disagreeing opinion in the case of Javelena, the Executive Secretary exposed the fraud that took place in the adoption of the People's Assembly of the 1973 Constitution on January 10-15, 1973. However, its final decision in the case was that The adoption of the Constitution in 1973 was valid and valid. President Corazon Aquino addressed the Constitutional Law Commission in 1986 in its inaugural session. When democracy was restored in 1986, President Corazon Aquino issued Proclaim Number a month later. President Aquino issued Proclamation Number 9, 1986, which created Constitutional Commission that discussed the writing of a new charter to replace the 1973 Constitution. The commission ended its work of 12/28 of October 16, 1986. National plebiscite was held on February 2, 1987, which adopted the new constitution on February 11, 1987. With the effect of Proclamation Number 58, President Aquino announced the official canvassing of the results and the ratification of the draft constitution. The 1987 Constitution finally went into full force and effect the same day with the President, other civilian official, and member of the armed forces swearing allegiance to the new charter.
Good day, Mom. My name is Mariluz Orendon, and my topic is all about the distinctive features of 1973 Constitution. So, I will discuss four. Let's start. Number one is the establishment of the modified parliamentary government. So, what is a parliament? A parliament is a democratic system of government having a real executive power vested in a cabinet composed of members that are responsible to the legislatures. It is one of the distinctive features of the 1973 Constitution because for the first time in the Philippine history, a parliamentary government has established a prime minister and a president, both elected by the National Assembly. Number two is the suspension of Bill of Rights. We all know that Bill of Rights is a declaration and enumeration of a person's right and privilege which the Constitution is designed to protect against violence by the government, individuals, and group of individuals. It is a charter of liberties of the individual and a limitation upon the power of the states. In 1973 Constitution, the Bill of Rights has been suspended. Number three has given the greater power to the executive departments. The executive department has the power to enforce and administer the law. The executive power is vested in the President of the Philippines. And in 1973 Constitution, the executive department has the greater power. Number four, not the least, the preamble and the 17 articles. The 1973 Constitution is composed of preamble and the 17 articles. It provides for the shift from presidential to parliamentary system of government. Its constitution was deviation from Philippine commitment to democratic ideals. Our former President Ferdinand Marcos was euphemistically called the 1973 Constitution as a authoritarian nature but yet democratic in practice.
The government position, including the power of authority, has been greater to the executive department. We have the legislative power is vested in a Congress which is divided into two houses, the Senate and the House of Representatives in the unicameral National Assembly. In 1973, constitutional legislative power was given to the president in enacting laws compulsory to avoid the uprising of new People's Army. Also, the justices in the court were invited by the president alone without a consent approval or recommendation of anybody or officials. One basic corollary in presidential system of government is the presidential system of government. Is the principle of separation of powers wherein legislation belongs to Congress, execution to the executive, and settlement of legal controversies to the judiciary.
Party rights, according to Gabriel Jan de Ricardo, study by President Manuel Rojas, believed the Philippines needed support from the Americans to be able to restore its economy. That is why the Liberal Party under Manuel Rojas. Manuel Rojas favored and granted the party rights, but President Marcos terminated party rights between Americans and Filipinos. If we're going to compare the 1973 Constitution to the current Constitution that we are following, I noticed that the article have the same, meaning that it's just the description for every article. In the 1987 Constitution are more elaborated. Some of these is Article 1 National Territory and Article number 2 Declaration of Principle and State Policy and the Article number 3 the Bill of Rights to Family and Article number 4 Bill of Rights of 1973 Philippine Constitution Section 4 no law shall be passed abridging the freedom of speech or the press or the right of the people disabled to assemble the petition the government for the redress of grievances. Analysis number 3. People of the Philippines in 1973 Constitution, it emphasized duties and the obligation of the Filipino. There is an emphasis of the duties and obligation of the citizens, especially giving military services and joining military forces. Statement Article number 5 of the 1973 Constitution, Duties and Obligations of Citizens, Section number 1. It shall be the duty of the citizen to be loyal to the Republic and to the honor of the Philippines, to defend the state and to contribute to its development and welfare, to uphold the Constitution and obey the law, and to cooperate with the duty constituted authorities and the attainment and preservation of the just and orderly society.
The 1973 Constitution led us to one of the most prominent constitution era of the Philippines. So it was signed by the former President Ferdinand E. Marcos during the years of martial law. On September 21st, 1972, Marcos issued Proclamation number 1081, placing the entire country under the martial law. The draft of the 1973 Constitution happened on November 30, 1972, and it was formally approved by the Constitutional Convention, and it was also submitted to the citizen for the ratification. January 17, 1973, President Marcos issued Proclamation number 1102, in which he announced that the Constitution had been ratified by the majority of the Filipino in a viva voce vote and had been become effective. After all the amendments introduced, The 1973 Constitution was merely a way for the president to keep the executive powers, abolish the Senate, and by any means, never act as parliamentary system. Instead, functioned as authoritarian presidential system. In 1981 amendment, the parliamentary system was formally modified into a French-style semi-presidential system where executive power was restored to the president. It was the first parliamentary government in the Philippines, which the president would serve a 6-year term and could be re-elected to an unlimited number of terms. The judicial power is vested in the Supreme Court, composed of the Chief Justice and 14 justices. National Assembly define, describe, and apportion the jurisdiction of the lower courts. All justices of the Supreme Court and judges of the lower courts are appointed by the Prime Minister. It is also important to study the history because actually it allows us to understand our past, which in turns allow us to understand the present. So if we want to know how and why our world it is the way it is today, so we can able to get the answer through our history.
Good day, Mom. My name is Marla Sorendon, and my topic is all about the strength of 1973 Constitution. So let's start. Number one, ensuring the citizens' health, education, and security. It is the most important role that the Constitution or the government should do, which is to secure the safetyness and security of their people. That's why it is one of the strengths of this Constitution. Number two, this Constitution let the records and books of accounts of each members to be public. It is also one of the strength of this Constitution because they are being transparent to the people. They allow people to be informed about the happenings inside the government. They also allow the people to know the accounts, books, and records that they have. Number three, the resources of the Philippines is limited to the citizen itself. It is also one of the strengths of this Constitution because it is very important that the government should limit the resources or the natural resources that we have, because if we allow everyone to access easily the resources that we have, there are possibilities that it will not take long and it will be destroyed. Number four, it ratifies the rights of the worker. It is also one of the strengths of this Constitution because the governments are appreciating the hard work of every workers. And the last one is it is maintaining and preserving our Filipino culture. It is also its strength because the government are maintaining the culture and traditions that we have. That's all, Ma'am. Thank you.
Along with the strength of 1973 Philippine Constitution, also has its weaknesses. This constitution allowed Marcos to rule by a decree until the year of 1978, when a presidential system of 1935 Constitution replaced with a parliamentary one. Number 1. Under this new system, Marcos held on to a power and continued to govern by a decree, suppressing democratic institution and restricting civil freedom. The year 1981, martial law was finally lifted, but President Marcos continued to rule by expedient of being re-elected by a force of re-election. Number 2. He continued to suppress dissent, and thousands of vocal objectors by his rule, they either mysteriously disappeared or were incarcerated. Number 3. Corruption allowed Marcos and his wife Imelda Marcos to live extravagantly, having to hold into a power causing resentment domestically and criticism internationally. Number 4. The justices of the court were appointed by the president alone. During the year of 1973 Constitution, they have increased the number of members of the Supreme Court. Number 5. The relationship of the court and the chief executive under the amendments of number 6 to the 1973 Constitution. The writ large during that period had assumed the legislative power while an elected legislative body continued to function. This 1973 Constitution have become the downfall of Marcos administration as the Filipino unified once again to achieve the democracy.
When did the 1973 Constitution ends? It ends when the democracy was restored in 1986. The 1973 Constitution was replaced by the First Freedom Constitution, also known as the Proclamation Number 3 in 1986. Then our current Constitution is 1987 Constitution.